at NIT Jalandhar, Punjab. He did his BTech in 2004 on electronics engineering in Jalandhar, MTech in microelectronics in Chandigarh, and he did his PhD in VLSI design at IIT Roorkee in 2010, respectively. For his research work, European Commission has awarded him Mobility of Life Research Fellowship for postdoctorate research work at University of Rome. He worked in Electronics Technology Department of University of Rome for characterization of semiconductor devices. Dr. Raj received Young Scientist Award from Punjab Academy of Sciences on 9th February 2015. He has also received Best Research Paper Award in International Conference on Electrical and Electronics Engineering held at Pattaya, Thailand from 11th to 12th July 2015, and Yearly Career Research Award from DST Government of India in 2017. Dr. Raj has authored 3 books and 8 book chapters and more than 80 research papers in peer-reviewed international and national journals and conferences. He guided 6 PhDs and 3 PhD scholars he currently working with him. He guided more than 30 MTech students. His areas of interest in research are classical, non-classical, nanoscale, I mean, sorry, nanoscale semiconductor device modeling, low power VLSI design, FinFET based memory design, and digital analog VLSI design and FPGA implementation. Once again, I welcome you, sir.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. Now I hand over the session to our resource person. Please, sir.
Okay, thank you, ma'am, for this nice introduction. So first of all, I would like to thank the organizers, principal of the college, also Engineering College, Tamil Nadu, head of the Department of EC, and Mrs. Priya Dasni for inviting me for this lecture. So I thank you all for giving me this opportunity to interact with the participants. So my PPTs are visible to all?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So the topic of the today's lecture is nanoelectronics devices, problems and possible solutions. So nanoelectronics deals with the nanoelectronics, started with the materials. What are the materials are there in nanoelectronics? Then the nanoelectronic devices based on the novel materials. So what are various, earlier we have MOSFET that whole the electronics is microelectronics is designed with the MOSFET. So MOSFET is going to be saturated in its capability of working towards the nano devices. So what are the alternative devices? So what are the alternative devices that we will discuss about in this lecture? So when we migrate from microelectronics to nanoelectronics, there are some problems are there. We cannot scale directly from micro to nano. So what are the problems we will discuss in detail, and what are the possible solutions, how we can mitigate those problems, we will discuss in detail. So under this title, we will start with the introduction, then nano devices. MOSFET, as I mentioned, MOSFET is the backbone of our electronic system or microelectronics systems. And once we scale that MOSFET below 50 nanometer, then there are so many effects here. So the nano MOSFET problems and possible solutions we will discuss, and in that major issue is the short channel effects and leakage current. So then we will discuss about how we can minimize the leakage current in the nano devices. Then we will discuss the novel semiconductor devices like double gate MOSFET, FinFET, and few more if time is there. Then we will discuss something on the device modeling. We have new devices and how we can model them, how we can verify the models. Then I will conclude my talk with a summary. So So let us start with the introduction. Whenever we talk about the microelectronics or nanoelectronics, we will start with the Moore's law, because he is the godfather of VLSI design. And in the Moore's, he was given a law in 1965 that within every 1.5 year or in 2 years, the number of transistor in a chip will be doubled. So with the enhancement of number of transistor on a chip, their performance is also going to be improved. How the performance will improve? Because as the individual transistor size is going to be scaled with the time, so their physical size is small, and the distance in source and drain, because in the MOSFET we discuss about the flow of the current, control of the current under the channel from source to drain. So this source to drain, if distance is less with the scaling, then definitely the time requirement is less, and obviously in less time our carriers can reach to the destination, and its performance will increase. So performance in other term, at system level, we can define the millions of instructions that we can execute per unit time or per second. So they are also going to be increased with time. So performance increase in the shrinking device, that also have the decrease in the power consumption. And when I talk about the performance, here we consider the two terms in the nano devices. One is the speed, at how much speed our devices or circuits are working, and the second is its power consumption, because power is a major concern in the portable nano electronics devices and circuits. Then there is another impact of Moore's law, that was the economical growth of the semiconductor technology. So the first theory was of Moore was related to the scaling and integration, and in the second law he mentioned the economical growth, means in the nano electronics, the production cost of the industry will increase with time, but the product cost will decrease, because in the nano electronics the infrastructure required in the fab lab, that is totally different from the conventional technologies. So in the nano electronics the fab requirement is different. Their lithography, ion implantation, etching process, their metallization process, materials. So due to different in the their all the mechanism, their cost, production cost, equipment cost is huge. So for that we require the migration from microelectronics to nanoelectronics with the steps that cannot be done directly suddenly from 180 nanometer to 10 nanometer. So the prediction of the technology, that is ITRS. ITRS is International Technology Roadmap for the Semiconductors. So International Technology Roadmap for Semiconductor predicts the future future technologies for the research. So for example, in the weather forecasting, we predicts how the weather will be there after 1 week, 1 month. So in the technology forecasting, there is a society of researchers worldwide, and they predict the future technology, how the technology will move after 5 years, 10 years, 15 years. They have 15 years data. We take the reference data from the ITRS, and then we pursued our research in the same direction. So as per ITRS, 22 nanometer technology required to be in 2011, and 6 nanometer around in 2020. But these are the prediction. As in the other predictions also, though we cannot achieve each and everything, like in weather forecasting, we take example. So if we say there will be rain tomorrow at 8 a.m., then there might be slightly delay, that may be started at 10 o'clock. So these are predictions cannot achieved, but they can be the roadmap, and they can be show of us the directions to proceed further in the technology. So there is always some delay in the technology. We cannot say exactly in 2011, 22 nanometer is there or 6 nanometer in the 2020. There may be around 22 or 25 technology extension is there. That we will discuss in the further slide why this variation is there in the actual and production. So let me discuss the evolutionary changing in the silicon CMOS along with ITRS. As I mentioned here, the MOSFET is the major device used for the microelectronics, and in the when we migrate from 19 nanometer to 22 nanometer or below, we have to follow some steps. So when we say technology in the microelectronics or nanoelectronic, technology is defined by the distance of the distance in between source and drain. If the distance in source and drain is 19 nanometer, then we say this device is designed at the 90 nanometer. If the distance in source and drain is 65 nanometer, similarly 45 nanometer, means in the microelectronics or nanoelectronics, we define the technology in terms of the distance in source and drain. So with the scaling, ultimately we have to scale the distance in source and drain. Not only distance, there are some other parameters also we will discuss in the further scaling, what are the various parameters we have to scale. So now here the question is, can we jump directly from 19 nanometer to 10 nanometer? Why we are going in the steps 65 and 45, 32? There are two reasons. One is our fabrication facilities, they are not going to be changed as fast as the other technologies are going to be changed with the time. Everyone says nowadays technology is changing very fast, but as we see the real practical applications also, after every 3 months or 6 months, we have a new version of the laptop or new version of the mobile phone available in the market with the latest technologies. So those changes in the technology, they upgraded in the devices, and industry within the time frame, time to market, they launch the products and available in the market. So changing in the new technology is acceptable, but at the same time, there are some challenges are also there. When we jump directly from 19 nanometer to 10 nanometer, what will happen? The silicon-based CMOS technology that can be scaled, but the will the performance and leakage will be what we need? So this question arises if we scale our conventional devices 19 nanometer, 10 nanometer, then the performance is not there. Our target, why we are scaling devices from microelectronics to nanoelectronics, our target is, as I mentioned earlier also, performance must be as high as possible. Performance means speed must be high as possible, as high as possible, and at the same time power dissipation must be as low as possible. So there are two terms in the power. One is the power dissipation, and second is the power consumption. Power consumption is the minimum power requirement for a device to make it in the functional mode, make it in the working mode. Then power dissipation is the power loss in terms of its heating effect, in terms of loss of energy in the leakage form. So here, if we scale our planar silicon CMOS below 10 nanometer, then the leakage current will be very high, then the power dissipation will be very high, and that is not acceptable. So that's why we cannot jump directly from 19 nanometer to 10 nanometer. We have to follow some steps. This is one type of aspect from its performance matter. Second aspect is in the fabrication, as I mentioned, why nanoelectronics is progressing slowly, because the fabrication facilities we have, we have to change totally, and the fabrication facilities are having huge cost, so they cannot be replaced as soon as the previous their fabrication flow can be having a full-fledged its return from its production point of view. So because here, as I mentioned, the technology we defined with the channel length, distance in the source and drain define the channel length, and that is the technology. So in terms of fabrication, technology is defined with the help of lithography. whatever the size of lithography is there, if the lithography available for the device fabrication is at 90 nanometer, then that is the 90 nanometer technology. The lithography is 45 nanometer, 22 nanometer, because that lithography decides my channel length. Okay, so lithography is a huge cost involvement is there in the fabrications, and so that cannot be replaced frequently. So that's why we have to migrate in the steps with the time span of 3 to 4 years. So next is why nanoscale devices are required. So in the last 3 decades, if you see, one thing is VDD that we have to scale. As I mentioned, there are two type of power consumption and power dissipation. So VDD is the power that we connect at the device for its making its functional mode. So VDD we have to scale. Then it's millions of instructions that we microprocessor unit its channel length that we have to scale, because once the channel length is scaled, then only my physical dimension of the individual device will be scaled. Then another parameter is the XJ, that is the junction depth in the device, how much source is in depth in the substrate of my device. Then drain current, if you see this is increasing parameter, all other are in the decreasing order. So this drain current must be as high as possible, because drain current decides its switching on and off switch. So ultimately in the we are talking for high performance, and high performance will be achieved only if we have a high drain current. Okay, so another parameter is the T-ox, that is the oxide thickness in our device. So oxide thickness, that must be as small as possible, because this is the parameter that also decide my threshold voltage. So threshold voltage is the minimum voltage requirement to make my device on. And at the same time, if I have a high oxide thickness in my device, then the threshold voltage will be high. If I have a small TOX, then threshold voltage will be less. So obviously, small TOX is acceptable, because less the threshold voltage, my device will be in the on mode in the early stage. So the device speed will be high. But this is a positive impact of my scaling oxide thickness. But will be the reverse impact of this scaling of oxide thickness? If I drastically decrease my oxide thickness, then if the threshold voltage earlier we have device, for example, 0.7 threshold voltage, now we scale to 0.3 or 0.2, then what will happen with some external variation in the temperature, then some stress, some vibration, or some fluctuation in the volt or current, then my device will on automatically without applying the gate voltage. So in that this is not acceptable. So there are some methods how we can scale, how much we can scale, those parameters are given in the ITRS, International Technology Roadmap, how we can scale the different parameters with time. Then here this graph indicates the number of transistors per chip keep on increasing. As we mentioned, the Moore's law, number of transistors keep on increasing. Why keep on increasing? Here one question important, that the number of transistors keep on increasing, but with less physical area of the size of the chip. For example, if we take the example of pen drive, the physical size of the pen drive remain the same, but its capacity with time keep on increasing. Like we have a earlier pen drive of 1 GB, then 2 GB, 4 GB, 8 GB. Then nowadays we have a 128 GB also pen drive is available. So, but if we see its capacity is increasing with time, but its physical size remain the same. How this happened? Because of the number of transistors are keep on increasing in the same chip area, and more information, more and more data can be stored in the space. So another is the power, that is also increasing. This is a limiting parameter. This is the drawback for my device, because as we see, the power dissipation keep on increasing with time, because as I mentioned here, if the oxide thickness is scaled, then the leakage current will be high. Okay, that we will discuss in detail once we come to the leakage part. Then millions of instructions per second, that is also increasing. This is again an acceptable parameter, because more the number of instructions we can scale with time, then execute in the same time, means its performance is high. Another parameter is the clock frequency. So clock frequency must also be as high as possible, because whenever we want to buy new laptop or mobile phone, we see at which frequency it's working, what is its processor's capacity, what's its memory. So 3-4 parameters are important. So if higher the clock frequency, mean in the less time we can execute more number of instructions, we can execute more capabilities of a circuit and system to hand. Then the chip size here is increasing in terms of its capacity, and then these are the some parameter merit. It's a number of transistor and frequency is increasing, that is the merit we want to increase. Then the power increasing, power dissipation here mentioned, this is will be in demerit, this should not increase with time. So conventional MOSFET we cannot control, but this power can be reduced in the novel devices that we'll discuss in further slide. Then VDD scaling is insufficient, because additional if we scale the VDD, my drain current also decrease. But as I mentioned here, drain current must increase with time, because this indicate my switching speed. So this is insignificant, that must not decrease. So next is the delay in the ITRS and actual design. As I mentioned earlier, the technology roadmap that is predicted by the scientific societies, they cannot achieve in the actual production. So my ITRS may say in the 2020 we have 6 nanometer, but actual production in the industry that may be still going on at 44 nanometer or 65 nanometer, and some of the ICs may be at 22 nanometer. So there is a delay in the actual production in the industry and research, and even in the prediction of the data by ITRS. So this delay in the actual and ITRS design that is have some benefits also in terms of its fabrication. So if here I have mentioned an example, if there is a 3 years of delay in the ITRS prediction and actual design of production, so this delay have benefit in terms of my previous fabrication resources available in my fabrication lab that can be used for another 3 years. I need not to replace my fabrication facilities, my design facilities in my industry to cope up with the new technology. So my earlier resources can be utilized for another 3 years. But at a cost, there are some limitations, because as we are having, there is delay, we cannot use the latest technology with for the fruitful new product development. So there is some little bit we can say there is a little bit we are delay in the actual achievement of nanoelectronics, but that delay is acceptable if the higher performance is not achieving in the device. So there is here again mention the delay in the actual and ITRS. So here is an example, the bulk extended for 4 years. So we have latest some devices like planar devices, ITRS 207, then planar devices, they are extended for another. So ultra thin body SOI silicon on insulator, they are supposed to be mature enough in 2015, but that is ultra thin body silicon on insulator transistors, they are extended up to 19 and even more. And then this is also an advantage because the previous technology fabrication facilities, they can be extended for another 4 years. Then this is the double gate MOSFET. So these terminology we will discuss in the further slides how they are different from our conventional devices. So this planar work devices, they are the MOSFET that we are talking about, and these are the new technologies that for the nanoelectronics to cope up with the device and circuits. So next is the MOSFET scaling. As we discussed, if we have to increase the number of transistors in the same area, definitely we have to scale its physical dimensions. So there are two aspects of scaling. One is the channel length scaling with time. Okay, so early days the people are thinking about to scale the physical dimensions of all the parameters so that we can make the portable things. Computer system we scale in the laptop so that we can carry with us. So physical dimension scaling was the main concern in the time. But if you see here in this graph, power supplies remain the constant up to some time of extent. But after that, then once the things are become portable, then the people start thinking about okay, we have portable systems, but what about this power? If my laptop work for only half an hour or 2 hours, then I may not be happy with that. So if my laptop can work for another 10 hours or 2 days, 4 days with one time charging, then that will be more acceptable to the customers. So how we can enhance this? We have to scale its physical dimensions also, and we have to scale its peripherals, voicing, and other things also. So based on this concept, there are two types of scalings. One is the constant voltage scaling, and other is the constant electric field scaling. In the constant voltage scaling, what we have, as its name indicates, constant voltage means the external voltage that we apply to the device, that is a VDD, drain voltage, gate voltage, that we have to keep constant, but other physical parameter we have to scale. If we scale only physical parameter and external biasing remain the constant, there is one limitation that as I am not scaling my voltages, so that my device cannot work for the low power. That may work for high performance, high speed because of its physical dimensions reduction, but as the voltage remain the same, I can say it's a high performance, but not for low power. So it has limitation, but it has some benefits also. Benefit is in terms of its interfacing with the other devices. So in the electronic systems, we see, as I earlier also mentioned, we have every 3 months or 6 months, we have a new version of laptop, new version of mobile phone, new version of computing units in available in the market. But our peripherals connected with the computing unit, they are not changing as frequently as our computing unit. Those peripherals are like we have a photocopy machine, we have a printer, we have a scanner, we have other peripherals for communication and processing. So those peripherals, they are changing after longer time period, maybe after 4 years or 5 years. We can have new systems in our laboratory or institutes after every 6 months or 1 year, but our peripherals we change after 5 years, 10 years. Okay, so if we have a constant voltage scaling, my new version of computing unit, new version of my computer system, they are compatible with the older peripherals also, so I can interface. But if I scale my voltage also and peripherals, my physical dimensions also, then my new computing unit that is not compatible with the older peripheral, then I have to change my this along with the computing unit, I have to change my peripherals also. So after, so we can say this is a long-term scaling. So in the constant voltage scaling, we have also known as the full scaling, where we scale the physical dimensions as well as peripherals. So with this, what will have benefits with the constant electric field scaling? We can say it can be having a benefits of high performance also, and it's for low power as well. So both the things can be achieved with the full scaling. So next are the some parameters, how we scale these parameters, like channel length, we have to scale, channel width, we have to scale proportion to the channel length, then drain to source voltage, that also we have to scale proportion to the channel length, because channel length is the main parameter driving our technology from microelectronics to nanoelectronics. Now other parameters like oxide, gate oxide thickness, then channel doping is the reciprocal, both doping we have to increase. Why we have to increase the doping? Because the doping is the parameter that enhance the drive conductivity in the materials. So higher the conductivity is there, obviously the higher drain current is there. That is again the parameter that we want to achieve as high as possible. That's why we are increasing the doping, and all other parameters we are decreasing, reducing with the channel length. So next is the scaling effects. In the scaling effects, when we have discussed there are so many benefits in terms of performance and power for a scaling of devices. But when we scale, we have to see some other things also, like device functionality and device reliability. Means when we scale from 90 nanometer to 10 nanometer, so there is some disturbances are there. I request the participant to mute your mic. So when we say functionality, means like its driving capability, IV characteristics of the devices. So in the IV characteristics of the device must be same as at 10 nanometer, will be same as at we have 90 nanometer. If there is a instead of graph in the linear saturation region, if we have a zigzag path in my characteristics, then I say this is not acceptable. Meaning it's a functionality of ID versus BGS with different gate voltage that not achievable. And another thing is its reliability. Reliability related to its lifetime, how much time it take in its device can work properly, and after that there a failure mechanism there. So in the IV characteristics, you might be seeing the box, there is a after a linear and saturation region, there is a sudden high increase in the current that is known as breakdown, and that failure mechanism must not be occur in the early stage. So next, so these are the scaling effects, also known as the short channel effects, and the short channel effects basically having the voltage variation in the threshold voltage variation, and known as the voltage roll-off. And these these short channel effect can be reduced with the high doping and alternative device structures. So high doping is one of the thing where we can reduce the short channel effect, but with the high doping there are some other type of challenges come into the picture, and those we will discuss further. Next is the scaling issues, that is the short channel effect we were discussing, that is the drain induced barrier lowering. So in the drain induced barrier, what happen when we scale my channel length and width, but my drain voltage remain the same, but will happen due to high drain voltage, the transverse electric field in the drain side will be high. So but with that, what will happen, the barrier, like let me explain with the help of PN junction. In the PN junction, what is there, we have P and N material, and in the when we combine these two materials together, in the center there is space charge region is there, and that is because of the diffusion of the carriers from higher concentration gradient to the low concentration of gradient. So with that what will happen, if the barriers are very small, then in the, as we know, in the forward bias barrier in the PN junction is very less, and the reverse bias that is very high. So with that barrier, what will happen, that must be larger in case of drain induced barrier. Due to high drain voltage, this barrier in the source and drain will reduce with time because of the high drain voltage, and with this what will happen, there may be some point of time where the without any effect of the gate, my current can flow directly from source to drain. So this is a problem in the nano devices. So to solve this problem, the possible solution is the new channel doping profile. So new channel doping profile, as early days we have uniform doping in our devices, substrate and source drain. Now we can have a selective doping. Means in the selected places we can have high doping, in the selected places we can have low doping. So in the selected place, specifically in the under the source and drain at the edges, will do the high doping, and that high doping is known as a halo doping. So halo doping is a concept where to enhance the driving capability of a device in the selected places under the channel and source drain, we do the high doping, and in the other places, substrate and other channel regions, we do the non-uniform doping. So with this, we can minimize the effect of a drain induced variable. So next is the mobility degradation. So mobility must be as high as possible because of drain current is dependent on mobility. But as we shrink the channel length below 50 nanometer, what will happen? The oxide thickness also reduced, that may be around 1 nanometer. Okay, so with that, what we have, transverse electric field reaches up to 10⁵ volt per centimeter, and with this, what will happen? The electric field that is near the drain and channel interface will be very high, and the mobility degradation scattering take place near the silicon and silicon dioxide interface. So in our these nanoscale devices, there are two type of fields are there. One is a transverse electric field and other is lateral electric field. Lateral electric field must be as high as possible because that contribute in term of current in the channel, and transverse electric field is high in the drain side only, not in the source side. Why not source side? Because in the source, in the MOSFET, the source is always grounded and voltage VDD is connected to the drain side. So due to the ground of source, transverse electric field is less. Due to VDD at the drain side, transverse electric field is high, and that high transverse electric field increase the surface roughness, and that increases the surface scattering, and due to that high scattering, my mobility degrade. So my concern is to increase the mobility, but that is decreasing because of transverse electric field. And to cope up with this problem, there is a possible solution for this problem is the strained silicon. Okay, so let me first discuss the why we prefer silicon in the microelectronics or nanoelectronics. So with the 90 or 95% ICs, we design with the silicon material, and only 5 or 10% they are designed with the other type of materials. So silicon is why preferred because if we have a silicon substrate, we can add the oxygen from the external, and there is a chemical reaction in the silicon, and oxygen and silicon dioxide grow automatically in the fabrication flow, and that automatically grow of silicon dioxide is act as a dielectric, and my oxide thickness Tox is defined by this silicon dioxide. And due to this, if we have some other material like germanium, gallium arsenide, gallium nitride, then oxygen cannot react with those material and dielectric cannot be grow automatically. In those cases, we require the external dielectric material to add up in the device to increase or decrease the threshold voltage. So silicon have this only beauty that silicon dioxide can grow automatically. Another features of the silicon is they are available low cost, they are available plenty in the nature at very low cost, and other materials they are heavy in cost. but the benefit of other material like gallium arsenide, gallium nitride, they are having the higher mobility as compared to our this silicon. So germanium also having the high mobility as compared to this device. So some of the benefits are available with the silicon and some of the benefits are available with the other material. Now, if we want to combine both the benefit of silicon and germanium, then our strained silicon came into the picture. So let's discuss what is the strained silicon. Strained silicon is we have a substrate of silicon and we are adding the germanium atom from the external. So in this silicon crystal, we are adding the germanium in, we have silicon germanium layer together. If we have a germanium substrate and adding the silicon atom from the external, that is the strained germanium. So with this, what will happen with the hybrid type of technology of silicon and germanium, we can take the benefit of both silicon and germanium and we can have a devices that can work for the high speed and also can having the better interfacing facilities with the other device circuits. So with this we can enhance the mobility degradation, that is we are discussing previously. Mobility degradation is there, but that can be possibly changed with the help of strained silicon. Next scaling issues are the doping density fluctuation. As we discussed, the doping must be as high as possible to enhance the mobility, but as we keep on increasing the doping, what will happen, the surface roughness at the channel silicon and silicon dioxide interface, that will be high. So like let me take a mechanical example. If we throw a ball on the ground again and again, what will happen, there is a some mark on the ground, there is some surface roughness of the surface roughness is there in the surface where the ball is hitting again and again. So if we add the doping again and again at the high frequency, high speed, what will happen, the similar type of surface roughness is there at the interface, and that surface roughness will degrade my mobility. Means my current, I am saying my current must flow from source to drain, but with this in the straight path, but with this surface roughness, there is a current will move in the zigzag path instead of straight line. So with that, what will happen, mobility will degrade. So with high doping, previously I am saying it's having beneficial to enhance the mobility. Now I am saying it's a limitation. So that is beneficial in the bulk devices, increasing the mobility with the high doping, that is beneficial in the bulk devices, but that is a limitation in my nano devices. So in the nano electronics, we cannot go for the high doping. Then the possible solution is undoped channel. So not a reasonable solution for the conventional MOSFET I mentioned here. So this is undoped channel. If available in the nano electronics devices, then we have to change my structure. So our planar MOSFET structure, that cannot work for the nano electronics because that will require the doping. But if we do doping, then mobility degradation is. So we can say in the nano devices, there's some other mechanism for the structural design that we'll discuss further. Next are the nanoscale device design challenges. Some are the, we have discussed, some are punch through, hot electron effect, DIVL, source drain, series resistance, and leak extent. So punch through, that is we discussed in the IB characteristics. There is a sudden increase in the breakdown current in the last, and that is because of the punch through, because in the books we have seen the channel drawn under the gate is uniform, but that is not uniform in the rectangular form, but that is in the triangular form. Means channel near the drain is less as compared to channel formulation at near to source. Due to less channel at the drain side, again the mechanism is same. Why channel is less in the because of the transverse electric field due to high voltage at the drain side. So due to less channel at the drain side, my punch through is there and my current will increase drastically toward the oxide, and that can be cope up with the help of high K dielectric materials. Then the hot electron effect is the, as its name indicates, hot electrons mean electron gaining very high energy and they jump toward the oxide. Instead of moving from source to drain, they move toward the other direction, that is the oxide side. So what will happen? My leakage current in the oxide is high. This, as its name is hot electron effect. Effect is always negative thing. So this is the effect in the previous devices, but that is the opportunity nowadays in the nanoelectronics devices. Nowadays, hot electron effect is used for the writing in the memory. Flash memories are designed for its writing mechanism with the help of hot electron effect. So in the memories, what we have, either 0 or 1 we have to store in the memory. So if the with the hot electron effect is the number of electrons gathered in the oxide having sufficient to represent the voltage of 1, then we say the memories of flash memory store the value of 1 in that. If the voltage is less because of the only few number of electrons gathered in the oxide, then we say the value stored in the flash memory is 0. So early days we say this is the effect in the conventional devices, and in nanoelectronics, nanoscale devices, some fruitful application can be designed with the help of hot electron effect. Then DIVL we have already discussed. Then the source drain series resistance. Source drain series resistance must be as less as possible, but due to spacers at the edges of source and drain, spacers, let me mention, spacers are the high dielectric materials we add near the source and drain side to minimize the subthreshold leakage current. And due to that, the benefit is the leakage current is less, but at the same time its resistance also increase, that again degrade my drain current. Then leakage current, as we mentioned, it's the loss of energy, loss of current in the offset that we will discuss further in detail. So punch through, hot electron, these things we have already discussed. So let's discuss the leakage current. So leakage current are of 2-3 types. One is the subthreshold leakage current, another is the gate leakage current, another is the reverse biased junction band-to-band tunneling leakage. And there are some other leakages also from the source to drain, body to drain, drain to body, channel to. So if you see this diagram here, the gate leakage is gate to body. Ultimately, in this device, if we have a P type of substrate, then my source and drain will be of N type. So this N type, this is N type, this is P type, so this is a PN junction, and if this PN junction is forward biased, then the current will flow in this direction. Similarly, here also P and N current can flow in this direction. Then this is also reverse reverse biased band-to-band tunneling can be there. Subthreshold leakage current is there. So this is the gate leakage current. So there are so many leakage current in device, and these are available in the nano devices, and they contribute less in the bulk devices. Why less in the bulk devices? Because in the bulk the oxide thickness is sufficient high, they can control the so oxide thickness is sufficient high that can control my subthreshold leakage current. Subthreshold, I would like to mention here, as we know, threshold is the minimum voltage required to keep my device in the off state, but subthreshold is the voltage when less than the threshold, mean my device is off here. To keep my device on, the voltage must be above the threshold voltage. The subthreshold voltage means the voltage, even my device is off, but still there is loss of energy. So why that happens? Because of the movement of charge carriers in the diffusion type of current. There are 2 types of current in my device. Then one is the drift current and second is the diffusion current. Drift current is the current when we apply the external wires to forcefully move the current from source to drain, and the diffusion current is the because of the movement of carriers even without external bias. So with this, we can say, suppose we charge our laptop or mobile up to the 100%, and now I switch off my mobile or laptop. If I again switch on after some longer time, 1 week or 2-3 days, the laptop or mobile phone that may not be charged up to 100%. That may be 95%, battery will be 95% or 98%. Although my devices are in the off state, but still there is a loss of energy and battery degradation. And why that happened? That happened because of the subthreshold leakage current. And this gate leakage can be minimized if we have a high K. As I mentioned earlier, silicon dioxide grow automatically here with the T oxide, and but in the nano devices, as we require the oxide thickness below around 1 nanometer or even less, then leakage current is high in this mechanism. So we cannot increase the oxide thickness because my threshold voltage will also increase. The alternative is we can go for the high K dielectric. As silicon dioxide material having the oxide thickness of dielectric constant of 3.9, and if we go for the high hafnium dioxide, then hafnium dioxide having a oxide with the same thickness of 1 nanometer, their dielectric constant is of 20 to 25, depending upon the hafnium and the oxide composition. So with the same thickness, dielectric constant is different. So the higher the dielectric constant means their resistivity is high and they can control more current as compared to the silicon dioxide. So if we have a longer channel, means 1 micron, even higher than these leakage current where in the picture, and there is no leakage current. If we have a short channel of less than channel is 180 around, and the oxide thickness is around 30 angstrom, then subthreshold current came into the picture. So if my channel length is around 90 nanometer, then oxide thickness will be around 20 angstrom. Then my this is short channel, so my subthreshold leakage current also came into the picture. So for further scaling of my device below 90 nanometer, then my other subthreshold leakage current band to band only they are came into the picture. So as we scale from bulk to nano, the more number of leakage currents are coming into the picture. So this is the limitation of scaling the devices from bulk to nano, but there are some alternative methods to mitigate this problem. The subthreshold leakage current that we have discussed, in the off state also some leakage current is there, and the possible solution for this multiple BTH devices. So earlier we have only one threshold voltage of a device to make it on and off, but now we can have a multiple threshold voltage also with the different structures. With the conventional devices that not possible. So further we will discuss how we can have a multiple threshold voltage in a single device. Then gate only we have already discussed. Then the high K dielectric that we are discussing in the if my this dielectric constant is 10 to in a range of 4 to 10, then this type of silicon and nitride type of material they can be used, and they having a less value of dielectric. And if we have some other high K dielectric materials, then with the same thickness we can control the leakage current. So with the high K dielectric reduction in the duct turning, so this is the silicon dioxide, so this much thickness is there, and my leakage current will be high because of the movement of carriers from one side to other. But with the high K dielectric here, this physical so larger indicates its resistivity is higher. So effective oxide thickness with the silicon dioxide, there as I mentioned, there is a dielectric constant of 3.9 but with the other high K dielectric material, this dielectric constant value can be enhanced to mitigate this problem. So next, band to band tunneling current, as we know in the our devices, current must flow from balance band to the conduction band for the movement of carriers. But if we have a high doping and the barriers move in this way, then the carriers from balance band of p-type material move to the conduction band of n-type of material, because the carriers always move towards the low resistance path. So in this side, the resistive path, or you can say energy gap, is higher, and in this direction the energy gap is less and less resistivity is there. So carriers start moving in this side. So this is known as a band-to-band tunneling, and this mechanism can be a possible solution for this can be low doping. So if we have a low doping, then this type of barrier can be enhanced, and the same type of energy band diagram can be achieved as we have it in the conventional devices. So the band-to-band tunneling can be mitigated with the help of low doping. But this is again a possible solution for the nano devices, not for the bulk devices. So next are the novel devices, silicon insulator. Earlier we have a device on silicon, and we connect the source to the ground, drain to the power supply, and body is also grounded. But as we mentioned, there are so many leakage current. To minimize those, we have another insulation layer in between to control the path, or to break the path of leakage current. Then low voltage of operation, then low channel doping, raised source to drain, and then we have a low channel resistance. So these are some of the benefits for moving toward the novel device. So let me further discuss what are the novel MOSFET devices. So bulk devices we have already discussed, and so many challenges we have seen. Then ultra thin body MOSFET. This is the ultra thin body MOSFET with the SY technology that we are discussing, silicon on insulator. What is the concept? We have a silicon substrate. We grow silicon dioxide above the silicon substrate, and then we have a source and drain. Earlier in the bulk MOSFET we have silicon substrate and source drain, and there is a direct path in source and body, drain and body or substrate, and that's why there are huge number of leakage current we have seen. But in this structure, as we have additional silicon on insulator, silicon dioxide layer here, the direct path from source to drain is not there now. This insulation layer will break my leakage current, and with this we can control the leakage current. So in the conventional device, as we discussed, halo doping is there to mitigate the DIVL effect. So this halo red colors indicators. Here we are doing high doping, and in the other range, other substrate we are doing the low doping. But in this case, again, we can, because of the selective doping, the fabrication process is a little bit complex. To make the fabrication flow simpler, we can have a uniform single doping or low doping. So in this case, my leakage current is controlled, and at the same time, my conductivity from source to gate can be enhanced. This is one type of structure. Then we will discuss the double gate and FinFET. In the double gate MOSFET, as its name indicates, in the conventional MOSFET, only one gate is there that control the current from source to drain. But in the double gate, we have two gates. One is the front gate, and second is the back gate. With the double gate, what is the benefit? As the gate channel formulation will be 2 times, and its current, driving current, drain current, that will also be of double. Mean my ID is doubled now, my switching speed will be doubled now, I say my performance will be doubled now. So that will not be exactly double, but we can say roughly that can increase up to 80 or 90% because there are some losses also that we'll discuss further. So in this double gate, one benefits we have discussed, its driving capability is doubled, but at the same time, so this is the ideal case, but in the fabrication, what will happen as we have two gates, gate 1 and gate 2, if there is a misalignment in these gates, mean during fabrication, if gate 1 move little bit this direction and gate 2 move little bit this direction, what will happen due to misalignment, the leakage current in the corners, in the edges will be high. And due to high leakage current in the corners, this device will having again power power dissipation. So due to high power dissipation, this type of double gate MOSFET is not suitable for the digital VLSI design, but this is most suitable for the analog VLSI design. So to have mitigate this problem, people have came up with the FinFET structure. In the FinFET structure, the beauty is this type of structure can be work as a double gate, can work as a triple gate, can work as a quarter gate, 4 type of gate. So what will be the benefit of increasing the number of gate 1 to 2, 3, 4, as we discussed ahead? If 2 gates are there, the driving capability is 2 times. If 3 gates are there, the driving capability is 3 times, 4 times. So ultimately we try to increase its performance. So why its name is fin, because we have source and drain, and there is a fin like a thing that connecting my source and drain, and this is the red color that indicates the gate. And if we have a oxide thickness of this side and this side 1 nanometer and top and bottom 5 nanometer, means high thickness of oxide, there is no effect of these gates. So this FinFET act as a double gate. So if I have this oxide thickness of top and front back same 1 nanometer and fourth side 5 nanometer, then this act as a triple gate. So if I connect all 4 sides 1 nanometer same oxide thickness, then that act as a quarter gate FinFET. So with the increasing number of gates, multiple gates, we high driving capability, but at the same time there is one limitation in terms of its power supply connecting. So here in this structure, you can see we connected both gate 1 and gate 2 together and given a single power supply BG. But this is known as a symmetrical structure. But asymmetrical structure, if the oxide thickness is two separate power supply, one BG for gate 1 and one gate for gate 2, that will structure asymmetrical structure is there, that we'll discuss further. So here why several gates are we already discussed. The increasing number of gates, the driving capability increase, means that we have a good on current is increased here, and off current is also minimized because of the its alternative structure. Then excellent electrostatic coupling, mean the short channel effect that we are discussing previous problems of DIVL, then punch through, hot electron effect, short channel effects, they can be reduced with the help of these type of multi-angle gates. Then leakage currents that can also be reduced drastically. So this is FinFET. Another benefit is that is a self-aligned structure. The problem we have in the double gate, as we are discussing, if the gate movement is from left or right side, then the misalignment is there. But this is a self-aligned structure because we are having a silicon dioxide SOI substrate at the bottom, and this substrate minimize my leakage current, and these gate enhance my driving capability. So this type of multi-gate structure having overcome all my challenges that we are facing as a bulk devices when we scale bulk devices in the NAND. So this is the challenges as we discussing in the double gate source and drain. Then these are source and drain. This is the gate 1 and gate 2. There is a misalignment concept that I explained already. So with this misalignment concept, my leakage current is high in the double. So this is a asymmetrical type of double gate MOSFET. In the asymmetrical, why we require, if we have a same oxide thickness, then that is a symmetrical structure. In the asymmetrical, we have different oxide thickness here and different here. So why we are taking the different oxide thickness? One director concept is the multiple threshold voltage devices that we introduced the concept previously. Multiple threshold voltage devices if are there, then we can achieve the improve my power and speed. So there is a trade-off in speed and power. Means if we try to improve my speed in a device, then power degrade. If I try to improve the power, my speed degrade. Because for high speed we require the less oxide thickness. So if less oxide thickness is less, than power leakage power is high, then power grid there. If I want to control the power, less power, then oxide thickness must be high, but with that my speed degrade. So in my conventional single gate MOSFET, I cannot mitigate this problem. But in asymmetrical structure with the double gate, I can mitigate this problem. With one side of oxide thickness is less, front gate I have a smaller oxide thickness that can enhance my speed, and other side I have a high oxide thickness, mean leakage current will be less in this side. So the trade-off of speed and power can be minimized, mitigated with the help of asymmetrical structure. This is another concept where we have same oxide thickness is there, but still this is asymmetrical, but based on the work function. Mean here one side maybe I have attached the 1 nanometer silicon dioxide, and other side same thickness of 1 nanometer, but work with the hafnium dioxide. So with the different dielectric constant, front and back gate again asymmetrical structure, and my again power loss can be improved and speed can be improved. But again the thing is, as we have a asymmetrical structure, in the previous structure we are tying gate 1 and gate together and giving only single supply, but due to two separate gate with a separate dioxide, we require two batteries now. So power in terms of power consumption, my I require the additional battery, but that its physical area will increase, but with the benefits of low power and high performance of my asymmetrical structure. There are some other type of structures available, like double gate MOSFET with the this type of configuration with the silicon dioxide at the bottom with the its configuration. Then we have a silicon dioxide here also to bottom gate. This is the top gate, source and drain. So this type of structures are available. Then we have a this type of FinFET type of silicon structure where we have a silicon substrate at the bottom. Then box is buried oxide layer is there. This layer particularly is attached to mitigate the back leakage current. Then we have a FinFET or tri-gate structure. In tri-gate, bottom gate is not there. We have a front gate, back gate, and top gate. Why bottom gate is not there? Because as I earlier mentioned, to grow the silicon dioxide, we have a silicon substrate and we can add the oxygen, silicon dioxide grow automatically. So in the fabrication flow, we can add the oxygen from the front, back, and top easily, but adding the oxygen from the bottom is not possible because of the buried oxide layer, and that's why growing the fourth grade at the bottom is difficult. So based on these challenges, some of the industries they have proposed a tri-gate type of structure, and also pi, also known as a pi type of structure. So these gates again can be act as a independent gate with the separate power supply for each, and they can be having a single power supply by connecting their gates together. Then next is the device modeling. Till now we have discussed the nanoscale devices problems and their possible solutions. But are the when we migrate from the micro device, bulk devices to the nano electronics, what are their challenges? What are the short channel effects? How we can minimize the short channel effects? What are the novel structures are there? So we discussed the double gate, FinFET, and their structures. With those, we can minimize the short channel effects and other problem. Now, Next, we will discuss the device modeling, how to model this device. If we have a new structure for a device, then we have to evaluate its certain parameters, and those parameters can be modeled with the help of mathematical modeling, analytical modeling, compact modeling, or with the TCAD simulators. So device modeling, in the device modeling, basically we start with the drift diffusion expression, and we solve the Poisson and continuity equations with the help of mathematical analysis. So in the, as we know, in the single gate MOSFET, their drain current expression and potential, they are available in the books, but in that expressions we have only gate voltage, one gate voltage, because BG1, because only one gate is there. But in the multi-gate devices, if have a two gate, mean we have in the same expression we have to add BG1 and BG2. If I have three, then three gate voltage. So with the multiple gates, its complexities keep on increasing. So then the manual calculations of those derivations is not possible. Then we go for the mathematical one of tool is there. We can solve the differential equations and integrals for the devices with the help of those. And by solving the mathematical expression, we can write the MATLAB code for that, and we can see the their characteristics by varying the different parameter. So the methods for the methods of modeling, there are with the tool there are some measurement data method is there, TCAD simulation is there, process variation is there. So in the measurement, like in our undergraduate laboratories, in the basic devices, in the breadboard, we attach the transistor or diode, and we measure their characteristics with the help of a CRO or multimeter. So in the nano devices, we have to analyze their IV characteristics with the help of measurement data. There is one 4-probe method is there, and with that there is one microscope attached at the top. One experimental setup is there for the analysis of nanoelectronics devices. For that characterization equipment, that is a costly equipment, around 1 crore or 2.5 crore rupees is got for a single setup, and those setup are available in the SL Mohali, IIT Bombay, IISc Bangalore. So if someone want to work on for the nano device characterization, they can approach there. So they have one Indian nanoelectronics user program is there. Under that, if you submit some proposal, so they take care of your all the expenses. How much, even they refund your travel cost, and free of cost living, boarding and lodging will be provided by the IIT Bombay and IISc Bangalore. But the only concern is your proposal must be acceptable. What you want to work, what you want to analyze there. So measurement facilities are there, and you can utilize those facilities for the characterization of nanoelectronics devices. Next is the TCAD simulation. Suppose I designed a device structure with a double gate or FinFET in my TCAD tool. There are large number of tools are available. One is the Silvaco tool, Silvaco and Centaurus. These are the tools we are using in our laboratory. And in that, you can analyze the device behavior in two ways. One is the fabrication flow, and second is its device design with the help of its coding. So experimental fabrication is a typical task, and that cannot be done easily. But fabrication flow, that can be done with the help of these tools. We can start with the wafer initially, silicon we can select from the tool. We can say this is a virtual fabrication type of thing. You can go with the process technology step by step, and you can design your own device with any type of materials. In the Silvaco, CNT cannot be designed, carbon materials is not there, but all other silicon based, germanium based, gallium arsenide, low frequency, high frequency devices, all those can be designed, and they can be worked, fabricated, and done. So in the characteristics like modeling, if you designed a double gauge MOSFET once with the silicon dioxide material, then same structure you can design with the hafnium dioxide, that you can analyze with the tool its characteristics, then you can compare with each other. No, the thing is, when we write the mathematical code in the MATLAB and result is there, something some graph will be there, but that graph is acceptable for publication or not, that we have to verify. So as we discussed in the ITRS, there is some data is available. So if some characteristics I am evaluating from my tool, how I validate it's correct or not, that we have to compare with the standard data of ITRS. If there is a variation of 5 to 10%, even up to 20% variations are acceptable. If the variations are higher, then we have to recheck my design in the Silvaco or MATLAB code. I have to recheck, and then we have to plot again. In this way, we can go for the analysis. I am not going the detailed mathematics, but how the concept is there, that way I will explain. Then the physical compact models and simulators, based on we can compare the experimental data we get for the characterization from the probe station and the TCAD simulations. We can compare with this. And third thing is, we can compare our data with the some reported paper also. In the if you have some paper with the experimental data from some authors, your simulation result can be compared with that. Then we finally, if the as we discussed earlier, we have to check once we scale my device from 90 nanometer to below 45 nanometer or 32 nanometer, I have to check its functionality and reliability. So here, by comparison of experimental and simulator and with the reported data, I am doing validating my functionality and reliability. If both functionality and reliabilities are okay, then we can go for the next process of product design. Then there are numerical models are there, compact models are there. In the numerical models, we write the partial differential equations using the different techniques of algorithmic approach, and the complex that these numerical models, they are complex in and time consuming, as specifically for nano devices, the parameters are huge. The number of gates are large, number of gates are there, materials are different for front gate, back gate. So instead of numerical model is preferred for the conventional devices, bulk MOSFET, but for the these nanoelectronics devices, we go for the compact models. In the compact model, there are some approximations we have to take. Like in analytical model, they are physics-based models, and based on the mathematical expression available in the literature, we can modify according to my own structure. How I can modify? I have to modify in the coding in terms of earlier I have silicon dioxide material. I am adding the dielectric constant 3.9. Now I change the material with the high K dielectric. Nothing is there. I have to change its dielectric value only in my coding. So in this way, we can go for the empirical models or lookup table type of model. In the lookup table type model, what we have a different set of the results already available in the ITRS report, and whatever the simulations we do, we compare with the ITRS, and with the comparison again, as I mentioned, we have to check the results are in a range of 10 to 20% variation or higher. If there are 10 to 20%, then nothing to worry, that can be acceptable, because we are not taking all the parameters into the consideration. So there is some variation, always variation in the simulation and practical ideal things. Next is the modeling and simulation challenges in the long term, then the process variations. Then we have to consider the nanowires, nanocarbon tubes, including doping, quantum dots, molecular electronics. In these types, there are so many challenges because the standard fabrication mechanism is not there, and things are in the research oriented only, not actual production point of view. Some of the companies know it, they have came up with the sensors based on the nanowire, but still bulk production is not there. So this is the modeling and simulation technology requirement, accuracy and speed based on ITRS data, as I mentioning. So in the ITRS, you will get this type of data like gate leakage accuracy. If we have a threshold voltage roll of 10 millivolt or 10 milli 7 volt, these are the different year-wise production of the ITLS data, and based on this data, we have whatever the simulations we do, we have to compare with this, and then we can conclude our designed device is correct functionally and reliability is good or not. Then the methodologies for the device design based on the ITAS report, we have to device design its IB characteristics, gate tunneling, their leakage currents, their tunneling from gate to channel, source to drain, drain to body, all those tunneling mechanism, and then threshold voltage roll off, they can be analyzed. So next are what are the challenges ahead with this type of devices? The fabrication is a little bit complex if we go for the multiple gate of gate all around type of structure. What is gate all around? We, as we're discussing, double gate, triple gate, quarter gate. If we have a channel, cylindrical channel, and we draw silicon dioxide layer all the around my gate, then that is a GAA type of structure. In that structure, obviously driving capability is enhanced very much, but at the edges it's difficult as we have to grow silicon dioxide with the chemical reactions. The chemical reactions can take place in the front, back, bottom, and top faster, but at the edges that will be less. So that is at the as the leakage current is still high, that is known as a corner effect, because at the corners the thickness of oxide thickness will be less as compared to other 4 places. So due to less thickness, the corner effect play a major role in the nano device. Then the gate material for oxide threshold voltage variation, then as we have to change the gate material from silicon dioxide to some other high K dielectric materials. With that, what will happen, its compatibility in the fabrication will be a little bit difficult, and the time requirement in the fabrication will be high. So the number of steps maybe previously we required 50 to 100 steps for the fabrication of single device, but in this case the number of steps may be increased from even higher than 100. Then source series resistance is also a challenge, because in the that as we discussed, the source series resistance must be as small as possible, but in the nano devices with the box connected at the bottom and nearby source and drain, they can enhance little bit. Then simulators need to model 3D quantum effects. Earlier in the single gate devices, we are going for the only conventional theory in the quantum effects, but we consider earlier we are analyzing the current from source to drain only. But in the 3D structures, we have to see the flow of current in all 3 dimensions. Current flow from source to drain, and how much its effect is width is there. Device we are having the focus on the its channel length only and in 1 dimensional only. So next is the current research and development in the nanoelectronics devices. So IBM have demonstrated the ideal behavior of 40 nanometer N-type of FinFET structure. So FinFET structure can be designed with the help of different type of materials and structures. Then Intel, they proposed the tri-gate transistor with the FinFET, because as we discussed, the front gate, bottom gate is difficult, and front, back, and top is easily. Then TSMC, Taiwan Semiconductor Manufacturing Company, they come up with the pi type of FET structure. again, bottom side they ignored, and their structure looks like a pie. That's why they given the name of pie FET. Then AMD demonstrated FinFET with the smallest delay yet available, and then Infineon, they also have the flash memories with the FinFET structure with 20 nanometers, and these flash memories are based on FET with the concept of hot electron factor. Then UC Berkeley, USA, they are also the academically they are doing huge work in the FinFET research in this area. Then the switching performance enhancement, this is the what we are started with this talk. The main target is to enhance the performance of a device and minimize its leakage and power dissipation. So in the, again, I am things how we can scale my devices from bulk to nano. We are coming to 22 nanometer, 14 nanometer, 10, and now we are approaching toward the 5 nanometer. And this is the main concern in the fundamental issues in the nano electronics is the power crisis. We can scale the device from the bulk to 5 nanometer easily with the simulation, because in the simulations, what we have to do, we have to just define the parameter in my tool, and even in the fabrication, virtual fabrication, we have to define the different layers, different materials, and I can come up with a new type of device structure. But the thing is, as we scale below 22 nanometer, there are so many challenges in terms of the power dissipation and power loss. So this is the, we can say, device technology map given in the planar technology. They can work in the bulk side only. So currently people are working for the FinFET and nanowires based structure, and future we have with the TFET and CNT FET based. And currently nanowires, they are extended in the future and then. So what is nanowire? In the nano wire is like in the my MOSFET structure, I have source and drain, and channel is connected through source and drain are connected through the channel. So if I have a nanowire, can be of a silicon type, can be of germanium nanowire, can be some other type of material. So if I have a silicon nanowire, then that nanowire connect my source and drain together, and due to nano dimensions, they have having a higher driving capability. So nanowire structure can be used as a nano FET field effect transistor, and nanowires can be used as interconnects of the different devices in my IC. So there are as the different material can be used in nanowire, they having good properties for future development in the nanoelectronics. So the next generations, then we can think about the alternative materials, that is the TFET, tunneling field effect transistor, and CNT. CNT is the carbon nanotube, like carbon having the very high mobility as compared to other semiconductor materials like silicon, germanium, gallium arsenide. Of all carbon having a high mobility. Due to high mobility, as we discussing from the start, high mobility is required to keep my own current high, to increase my drain current high for the high switching. So with this type of transistors, we field CNT carbon nanotube, we can design the FET also, field effect transistor, CNT FET, or CNT can be used as a interconnect as a wire also. So earlier CNT carbon nanotubes, they have major application in the sensors. Then with this high mobility, they cope up with the interconnects. Then CNT based interconnects are further two types. One are the local interconnects, and one are the global interconnects. So as the CNT structure can be single wall CNT and multi-wall CNT. If we have a single sheet of carbon layer rolled in a cylindrical form, and only one cylindrical sheet is there, then that is a single wall CNT. If we have multiple CNTs of different diameter, one is 5 nanometer, or outer that maybe a 7 nanometer, then 8 nanometer, 9 nanometer, 10 nanometer, different cylindrical CNTs one over the other, then that is known as a multi-wall CNTs. So single wall CNTs, they are used for the local interconnects, because the local interconnects means we are connecting nearby devices together, and global interconnects where we have to connect all the IC together. For example, we have to connect a power supply to all the devices. So power supply requires the more interconnect capability. So global interconnects are used there based on CNT. And if we are connecting one transistor with the other nearby other transistors, then local interconnects with the CNT, single CNT used. So here I have seen the material with the electron mobility, silicon having this type of this mobility, then indium arsenide having the high mobility, then germanium having this, then the whole mobility. So carbon having even higher than this mobility in the 40,000, carbon having the more than 1 lakh mobility. So with this the next generation devices can be designed. But as we are discussing, due to high mobility, local interconnects, global interconnects, CNT FETs, circuit design, all the circuits we have in the MOSFET based, like a simple adder, subtractor, multiplier, ALU, memory design, all those that we are designing with the MOSFET now, it can be designed with the help of CNT FETs. But the challenges is CNT from the concept point of view, from simulation point of view, it's okay, but there are still some challenges from fabrication point of view. So with the time, once the advancement in the fabrication technology is more, then in the near future that can be cope up with this type of facility. But currently, if we see the CNT, nanowire, TFET, they are under the research only, not from actual production point of view. From sample testing point of view, for some experiment, few things are fabricated with the nanowire and CNT FET, but they are just from the experimental point of view, not from the major production point of view. The major production in the industry is still based on the FinFET devices and nanowire based also sensors available, some memories also available, and at the around 10 nanometer and 14 nanometer and 22 nanometer. But 10 nanometer and below, we can say this is still under the research, not from the production point of view. So next, some current idea for the future logic devices. So as we discussed, the multi-gate devices, double gate MOSFET, FinFET, pi gate, MOSFET, gate all-around structure. These multi-gate devices can be used for the various circuit design, system design, for the better performance circuit or based on the future nanoelectronics type device. Then resonant turning based devices, TFET, that we are discussing, this is still under the research. Some of the from sensor application point of view, they are available in the market, but from circuit design point of view, from electronics circuits point of view, they are still under research. The single electron transistor, this is again not a new term. From last 3-4 decades, we can say single electron transistor concept is there, but the challenges is still from fabrication point of view. If the fabrication advancement is take place in the near future for the fabrication of single electron, then our electronics totally change from nano electronics, then we can say that can be pico electronics. But that is still, we can say again, we are discussing these things from simulation and analysis modeling point of view. It's a study point of view, but not from the fabrication and production point of view. Then CNT and nanowires, they are also available from sensors point of view, but from nano electronic circuit and system design of view, still they are under study under the research. Then molecular electronics transistors, they are a new concept from our latest technology from Internet of Things and artificial intelligence point of view. So the nanoelectronics nowadays, we are having our laptop computer systems, even in our mobile phone nanoelectronics devices are available, but those are basically used for high computing, but not from its intelligence point of view. When we say artificial intelligence, that is known as machine to machine communication. Still we are communicating from one place to other with the, like we are discussing these lectures, we are transmitting the information, they are based on the human intervention. Means I am delivering the lecture, so we are cope up with the machineries. But in the artificial intelligence, even without the human being, different laptops, different machines, they can communicate with each other. How they can communicate with each other? If they have the capability of decision making, intelligence is there. So those intelligence can be increased in the electronics machine with the molecular transistors. Like in our brain, we have neurons. They are trained with the time, like a childhood. They don't know anything, but we give him inputs for the different type of inputs, and their neurons trained with time, and they start remembering the things. So in the artificial intelligence, molecular based transistors, they will act as neurons, and they can remember the things. So molecular transistors, they are also available in the ICs, and some of the experimenters are successful experimenters are available. Then spintronics, that is also a very interesting area of research, where the all the other things, devices we are discussing, they are based on the charge, current flow from, as we are discussing, the current flow from source to drain and their leakage current. All those things are charge based. But in spintronics, they are based on the spin movement of spin indicates the movement of magnetic field that can be one directional or double directional. And the spin based electronics, they are again we can say that is the next to the nanoelectronics, or that they can be one of the fastest system for the future design point of view. So with this, let me summarize what we did till now. We started with the scaling trends of the devices, how we can scale the bulk device into the nanoelectronics devices, and with the new device structure. Then we understood the device design space and scaling constant. If we scale from bulk to nano, what are the challenges are there and how we can mitigate. Then we discussed the leakage current, different type of leakage current, and the short channel effects. Then with the multi-gate structure, we can minimize the leakage current, we can minimize the short channel effects. Then new techniques for power reduction at the device level, like how we can minimize the power reduction, like with the different type of material, low silicon dioxide, hafnium dioxide type of material. There are so many other type of materials available with the high K dielectric properties, so they can minimize my power dissipation. Then device modeling for scaling studies can represent today's performance and predict that tomorrow's limitations. With the device modeling, we can analyze the device behavior from its capability point of view, how much driving capability is there, and what are the challenges are there in the future. Those things can be analyzed. Then high density, low power and portable systems, they are designed with the nanoelectronics devices. So their study from present and future aspects we have to analyze. So with this, I thank you very much all the participants and organizers for giving me this opportunity and their patience listening. So if there is any questions, please let me know. We can discuss. We have some time. We can take the questions. So if there is any question, please write in the chat box.
Participants, if you have any queries, write in chat box. Participants, if you have any queries, sir, shall we conclude, sir?
So if there is no query, then we can end the session now. And my email ID is blinderraj@gmail.com. And if you have any query, you can write to email to me, and I try to reply back with your queries. So thank you very much to the organizer and giving me this opportunity to share my views with the participants. So thanks one and all.
Thank you, sir. Thank you for your valuable speech. I hope it's very effective and informative for all the participants. Thank you, sir. Thank you, all the participants.
Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.